What's up, Rebels? In this edition of the Location Rebel vlog, we're going to Bermuda. All right, well, I don't know what you think, but I'd say this is slightly better than the airport. Welcome to Bermuda. Okay, so I had really high hopes. I was gonna take an extra day after this event in Bermuda. It was supposed to be beautiful. I was gonna film some videos. It was gonna be great. And then, you know, this happened. Wind and rain and gray and, you know, typical island life. So now I'm gonna try and find another spot to film this that doesn't get me and the camera completely soaked. What's up? I'm Sean Ogle of Location Rebel, and in this video, we're going to talk about what happens when good habits, well, they become bad habits, and what to do about it. So for the past 3 months, I've had a handful of habits that have been really good habits. They've been things that have enriched my life, they've helped me be more productive, and they've generally been a good thing. But all of a sudden, in the last month or so, I've realized that these things that were really positive for me were slowly becoming not so positive. So let me give you a couple examples of what I mean by that. The first is about 3 months ago, I started working reading into my morning routine. I'd wake up, I'd make a cup of coffee, I would sit down, I would read for 30 minutes to an hour or so. And it was great. I felt like I was learning, I felt like I was doing something productive first thing in the morning, and it was allowing me to, go right into my workday feeling like I had already accomplished something. Well, over the last month or so, I've realized that instead of, in the past where I used to wake up right away and I'd go to work and I'd get started early, I'm using the reading as a little bit more of an excuse rather than something that's actually helping me be productive. I think part of the reason for this is I have books that I'm not necessarily as engrossed in. And so what's ended up happening is I'll read for a little bit and then I'll get on my phone and I'll play a game, or I'll watch YouTube videos, or I'll read the news, and I'll do something that's really just nothing more than procrastinating and giving me an excuse for not going on with my day and actually getting down to work. And I do it under the guise of, oh, this is my reading time, so it's okay. But lately, it hasn't been so positive. Another example of this is in the gym. I've had one really hardcore, gym routine that takes me about an hour that I should be doing like once or twice a week, but it's something that gets me drenched in sweat. It's something that I enjoy, and I know I'm getting a good workout when I do it. But instead of doing it once or twice a week, I've been doing it like 4 or 5 times a week. That's been the habit that I've, kind of gotten into. The problem with that is now all of a sudden I'm starting to develop a few injuries and, some minor things, some, aches and pains that weren't there before because I'm doing this one fairly intense workout on a regular basis. So it was a great thing for starting to get me into shape, for getting me into the habit of going to the gym every day. But now all of a sudden doing this day in and day out, it's not having such a positive effect. So those are 2 personal examples for me of how these things that were really good habits, all of a sudden, not such good habits. So what do you do when you realize that you've now built these routines that are kind of ingrained in you and they're not serving you anymore? The first thing you do, or the first thing at least I did, was once a week I started taking stock of my habits and routines. So every Sunday I would sit down and say, okay, this whole reading thing, it's not necessarily working out so well for me, so what should I do? Should I start a different book? Should I just get up and shower and go to the office or go work? Should I replace that with something else? Instead of reading, should I do meditation or yoga or something like that? And then I create a plan for the week. So this last week before I was traveling, I said, okay, I'm gonna get up, and before I do anything else, I'm gonna shower and I'm gonna leave the house. I'm gonna go someplace else and I'm gonna start work. And it's led to a really, really productive work week, one of the most productive weeks I've had in a while. And so I'm not sure if that's necessarily the routine and the habit I want to start to build, but it's allowed me to make a switch from something that wasn't really working anymore to something that's really beneficial. As it relates to the gym, I say, okay, well, instead of doing this 4 or 5 days a week, because that's the easy thing, that's what I, just automatically doing, into my calendar each day, I say, okay, what is my exercise routine gonna be? So I've started playing tennis, I've started swimming, hitting more weights, playing basketball. I've been doing things to really mix it up. So I'm using different muscle groups and I'm not necessarily getting those repetitive injuries from doing the same thing over and over again. So think about the habits and the routines you've got. What are the things that aren't serving you? Spend 20 minutes sometime this week kind of thinking to yourself, okay, what are the things that are allowing me to procrastinate? What are the things that are getting in the way of my productivity? And what are the things that are just not necessarily making me as happy as they once were? The second thing you should do is establish if it's the habit that's the problem or the form that's a problem. So let me give you an example of this. So generally I'll finish up working around 5 or 6 o'clock, and you guys know I'm into cocktails. So often at like 6 o'clock I'll go and I'll start getting in the bar and I'll start creating a bunch of stuff, and before you know it I've had 2 drinks. And I tend to like stronger cocktails, so often they can be kind of boozy cocktails. And I realized that all of a sudden this habit that I got into a while ago was good for the creativity, it was good for my cocktail knowledge, I learned a lot. But all of a sudden it was like, well, I don't need 2 cocktails a night. So I started thinking, okay, is that the problem, or is it just the form that is coming into this problem? It's like getting into the habit of creating something after work every day. That's not a bad thing. So what I recommend you do if that's the case is consider doing like a habit swap. So for me, 2 ways I've done that is instead of creating cocktails, I create food. So I'll start creating healthy dinners and say, okay, what can I create that's gonna allow me to have a creative outlet, that's gonna build a skill, but it's not necessarily something that's going to be harmful in the way, you know, having multiple drinks a night is going to. Another thing I've done is instead of creating cocktails, I create mocktails. So I take fresh fruits, club soda, different types of bitters, and I try and create drinks that taste good that don't have any alcohol in it. And that's great because if someone comes over to my house and they want something that's not alcoholic, then I've got multiple options that are still kind of cool and they taste good and they're unique, but, you know, don't have booze. So think about those habits that aren't necessarily serving you, and how can you switch that out with something else that might be a better fit. And finally, the last thing you do if you're having any issues with habits, both good habits and bad habits, is there's 2 books you should read. The first is Atomic Habits by James Clear, and the second is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Those are the 2 best books I have ever read on habit building. Whether it's building good habits or breaking bad ones, the stories in those books are awesome, and they've got a lot of kind of common sense stuff that you don't necessarily think about that's a good reminder for helping you figure out, okay, how am I going to move forward and how am I going to create things that are going to be beneficial in my life as opposed to holding me back or keeping me from achieving my goals. So that's it. Those are the 3 things that I've been doing after recognizing that these things that I had built that were serving me really well for a little while weren't necessarily serving me as well now. I started doing a weekly recap of the habits and the routines that I have so that I could make tweaks and actually plan for the changes I wanted to make rather than falling right back into the same old routines. The second thing is I started to figure out if I should switch out habits or get rid of them altogether. Sometimes it's not the habit that's the problem, it's just the form that that habit is taking. And finally, I went back and personally I reread Atomic Habits. I've now read that book twice and it only came out like 4 months ago. It's that good. I highly recommend it. There's links to both of those below. And if you like this video, make sure to hit subscribe. We got that notification bell right up top there. Make sure to hit that, and let's be real guys, come on. You know I like the thumbs up. So if you got some value out of this video, if you got even one helpful tip, hit that thumbs up button. I love it. That's great. We've got new videos every week that are going to help you with your life and business and allow you to spend more time doing the stuff you like to do. Like, you know, traveling to Bermuda to golf, even if it's pouring down rain. But we did get some great weather before this, so that was good. With that, I've only got about 24 hours left here. It is raining, but I'm going to try and find something that's going to not make me soaked, but allow me to take advantage of my time here. So I hope you enjoyed this. I can't wait to see you soon. We got new videos every week, so make sure to subscribe. And with that, I'll see you later.